Okay, yeah, I know. It's 2025 or almost there, depending on when I get this video up. So you're probably thinking, who cares about 2023? Why are you making this video? That's a fair question. Basically, it comes down to over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of confusion, I think, about what exactly it is that I'm doing, like in general, in life. And a big part of that is what I'm doing as a job or what I'm doing to make money. From 2017 all the way through April of 2022, I was making videos every month. And at the end of the month, I would make a budget review video where you saw where my income was coming from. And I would talk about where it was that I was working. So nobody really ever questioned what I was doing. It was pretty obvious if you followed along. Well, all of that changed in April of 2022 when my life pretty much fell apart. Um, if you're a regular subscriber, you already know all about that. And if not, then make sure to subscribe because I'm eventually going to start a series called Shall Be Heard, where I'm going to talk about what happened and why my life fell apart. But regardless, for the last almost 3 years now, I have not been making monthly budget review videos. And while I do talk about what I'm doing for work, I kind of mostly talk about it in my monthly live stream hangouts, and those are a couple hours long. So I don't blame you for not catching when I mention there what it is that I'm doing. And I think I really became aware of the necessity of making this video back in 2023, and that's why I initially had meant to make it back then, before the whole roommate stabbing situation. But the reason was I was in a conversation with the roommate, and he said something along the lines of like, well, you're not whatever career that he was talking about. He's like, you're not that. You're a DoorDash driver. Like, that's what you do as a living. I'm like, no, dude, what? I mean, yes, I do drive for DoorDash right now. We live in an area where there's not really much to do for jobs, and that's one of many jobs that I'd coupled together at that time to make work into an income. But I thought, is that what people think I'm doing? I mean, my roommate certainly seemed to think that I'd make the professional decision to become a career DoorDash driver as a profession. And I was really baffled by that. On the one hand, it made me think, okay, I really need to update everyone if that's what people are observing and thinking is going on. But on the other hand, I did realize that, maybe my roommate is just exceptionally dumb. That might be the case. But just in case, I don't want anybody thinking that I've decided to do that as a profession permanently. So instead, I wanted to make this video to talk to you guys about what exactly it is that I was doing for work for all of 2023 to get you caught up. And then there will be a second video about what I've been doing in 2024. And it'll talk a little bit about what I'll be doing, at least in the first half of 2025 as well. Okay, so setting the scene, January 2023. I'm living in Athens, Ohio, a college town in the middle of nowhere. I've been there at that point for about 9 months, and while I found some success building furniture primarily through TaskRabbit, it's the dead season for that. It just dies off in the winter. So gig economy is pretty much all I've got at that point, which was at that point Uber Eats still, and then DoorDash primarily, and a tiny bit of Instacart. So I'm trying to make that work. And the reason that I'm trying to make that work is because that whole thing that happened back in April 2022 that made my life fall apart, I was still pursuing that. Not only did that affect me a lot mentally, but it also took up almost all of my time. And I had to deal with that and that was really my full-time job. I had to be on call constantly to deal with whatever I had to for that, and researching it and writing it and everything else I had to do for that. That was just the most time-consuming thing you can imagine. So I had to have a job that was flexible around that, combined with the issue of living in the middle of nowhere where there really aren't any jobs to begin with, and certainly not any that are flexible. So that's why I was doing gig economy work, is just to make money around the schedule that I had to have. Okay, so now that you understand the setting, let's just jump back a little bit. So up through 2019, 2020 even, I was at a normal 9-to-5 job like everybody else. And then COVID happened. I took an emergency job where I worked a ton of hours. And after about 6 months of that, I got laid off. So, well, not laid off, furloughed. And because I was furloughed, I just sat there on unemployment expecting to be called back. But it turns out that I never actually got called back. But I had been expecting to. So that put me through March of 2021. Well, now by that point, I had already signed up to be a house director for the fraternity, but it didn't start until the school year started. That's just how college, university system jobs work. They usually start at the beginning of the school year. So here I am with a job lined up, unemployment coming in through, there's a little overlap with the start of the new job. So I'm not worried about money at all, and I'm not working. But as you all know, because of the girl, the whole house director thing didn't work out. We didn't move out of state. And then I worked at a drug rehab for less than 2 weeks before I found out that that was some kind of Medicaid scam, and I didn't want anything to do with that, so I left. But I did not leave before I had another job offer. They actually offered me a different location of the fraternity. And so I headed off to WVU, and I was the house director there. And if any of you know or remember back that far on my channel, that was not a good experience, just all around. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just the guys, it wasn't just Morgan Hole, it was a lot of stuff. But it didn't work out, and I ended up losing the job at the end of March 2022. Now, remember I said April of 2022? Yeah. So I was already homeless and without a job when everything else hit me. So April 2022 was the last time that I did that budget review. And I think that's about the last time that anybody really knew for sure what was going on with me. So I know this video is about 2023. It is, but let me get you there. All right, so in 2023, I did find a room to rent in Athens, Ohio. That brings us back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. And I was doing some DoorDash here and there, Uber Eats here and there. But I was very lucky, and I found TaskRabbit, and I was doing a lot of furniture assembly through TaskRabbit. And I was making really pretty good money through that. I was pretty well solidly booked, and I was happy. I was like, I never expected this. Like, I was in a bad place and I found something great. And everything was good until about the fall. And I didn't know this because it was the first year I was doing it. But furniture assembly, it's pretty seasonal. And once you get into the fall, it slows down. And once you get to winter, it is dead. It doesn't really pick back up until about May. So I'd found my way. And then it got so slow, and I started getting behind on bills and everything. And it pretty much stayed that way until about April or May of 2023. And I can say, you know, I think I had one furniture building task, a small one, in May of 2023, and that was the night that my roommate tried to stab me. So after that, because I was no longer bound to Athens to try to fulfill my gentleman's agreement with him, I just went up into Columbus. I was living in my car anyway, so I thought, why not I'll just go where some of the work is. And I did my best, and it did pick up. As the summer came about, I did get more work. Now, what I was doing by this time, and I somewhat had a plan about this in 2022, but really took off in 2023, is I wanted to do furniture assembly on my own. Not just on TaskRabbit, but just in general. So I started taking on private clients, and I started making even more money doing that. And this worked for me because I still needed that flexibility. I still mentally, because of everything that had gone on, was not in a place where I could work a full-time regular job, and this gave me a lot of flexibility. So I spent most of the summer of 2023 just absolutely slammed with work, and when I wasn't doing furniture assembly, I was doing DoorDash. So therein, I think I've already answered the question of what I was doing for work in 2023. You can look at it like my roommate, who was an idiot, and you can think, oh, well, he works multiple jobs, and the majority of his income comes from furniture assembly. Now, he must have decided to be a professional DoorDash driver. That makes sense. This guy has a PhD. Anyway, so as you can see, for y'all who are not him, my main job was building furniture. I got most of my leads through TaskRabbit, but I'm also working off platform and was working to build a business doing that. In fact, during the summer of 2023, I completed a boot camp with Ohio University. So I do have a certificate that I've earned post-baccalaureate through that university, and that was for the Southeast Ohio Community Entrepreneurship Boot Camp. And that opens up some opportunities later on. In fact, I just last week got an email from my professor, and they're offering to give me an intern sometime in 2025 or 2026. So it does help me that I have gone through that. So basically, what happened was my main focus in 2023, and the answer to that question, the title of this video, is that I was building furniture, and I was also building a business, and I also went back to school to learn more about starting a business and being a business owner. I was also doing DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Instacart during that time, but it was sort of just filling. I mean, I needed as much money as possible because I'd got behind on bills, so I'm trying to use that to like build myself up, but that wasn't my primary income. So then at the fall of 2023, so I'd say like September, October, just as expected, the winter slowdown came, but it hit hard. In 2022, it was a gradual slowdown through December, but man, it hit like a brick wall September and then October of 2023, and I got like no work. So I went back to primarily just doing DoorDash mostly, and I knew I was going to have to go somewhere for the winter because you can't live in your car in Ohio in the winter. It's literally not possible. So I knew I was going to have to move, so I couldn't take a job. And that's when I left for North Carolina on November 29th, I think, of 2023. I went down there without a job lined up because I thought I'd do some furniture assembly here and there where I could. And I went, and I was still doing DoorDash and everything down there. But I will tell you, as time has gone on, I'm going to talk about DoorDash mostly because that's the one I do the most, but all of those gig app things, the pay just went down and down and down, and the frequency at which I was even getting orders, whether they were ones I'd accept or not, the frequency they were coming in was so slow. And by the time I got to North Carolina that winter, I should say, I started having my first days where I was putting mileage on the car, going around trying to get orders, and literally wouldn't produce a single dollar that day because it was so slow that I wasn't even receiving any orders at all. And I am just like, this is bad. This is really bad. I've got to figure something out. And that's where I ended 2023. In the next video, we'll talk about how I saw myself through that in 2024. Just know the answer to the 2023 question was I was building furniture and building a business. And then I had a very meager winter 2023. But I survived, obviously, still here. I survived, I made it through. And look out for the next video that'll come up here pretty soon. And that'll explain what all I did for all of 2024 and what I'm planning to do for like the first half of 2025. So I hope that catches you up a little bit, and I will see you guys in that next video.